Whether some fans agree or not, at least there's some peace finally in Ann Arbor. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, talking Michigan. We got Clayton Safety on the line from the Wolverine Mag on Rivals. Clayton, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mark. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Good to have you back, as always, to break down the Wolverines, and the ongoing has finally come to an end in regards to whether Jim Harbaugh was going to jump to the NFL, whether he was going to accept a long-standing contract extension that had been offered reportedly quite some time ago. So he stays at Michigan. Give us the terms of the contract and what do you think it means?
Yeah. So basically, I'll start by saying this, that there's finally resolution. Like you said, I think the fan base is kind of torn. You know, some people are, hey, let's move in a different direction. We've seen what this program is like under Jim Harbaugh. Some people are, we want to see what he can do. He's done some good things. Continue this. They've seen some coaching searches go awry in the past. You see, look no further than Rich Rodriguez or Brady Hoke. But I think everybody was united in the fact that they just wanted something to happen in fast. Finally did last Friday with Jim Harbaugh signing the contract extension. But yeah, the terms are interesting. So he was set to make, his regular salary this next season at $8 million. He, accepted the extension, but the terms are interesting because it's a 4-year extension, had 1 year left. So he's here through, the next 5 years through 2025. The base salary is about $4 million and it goes up a little bit each year, but it's highly incentivized. So it's kind of you've seen a couple programs around the country do this in the last 5 or so years where you're not just paying a huge sum to a coach and not getting the results you want, and then you pay a huge buyout. You just saw Auburn pay a huge buyout. You just saw Texas pay a huge buyout. So it's highly incentivized. He has to win the Big Ten, win the division, make a bowl game, make a New Year's Six bowl game, make the college football playoff, win the national championship if he wants to get back to that number, which is right near $8 million. And, as far as what the holdup was, and I guess I was about to make this point that he basically is, he could have made the $8 million this year, but the offer or whatever he wanted to do or whatever he accepted is that they actually restructured this final year of his original contract. And then, it's kind of the same thing moving forward. But as far as what the holdup was, we had heard that there was, discussions just before Christmas between Ward Manuel, Michigan's athletic director, and Jim Harbaugh on what's going to happen. And they kind of went through discussions. There was a contract offer on the table. For whatever reason, it didn't seem to be as urgent for these guys that, as it was for the Michigan fan base. But they got through signing day, and we kind of recapped that about a month ago, that with the really good class. So it didn't really impact that as much. And, but at the same time, you're looking forward towards, recruiting never sleeps. And you're looking forward towards the next year where things were kind of on a standstill. And some recruits were saying, there's just so much uncertainty. We're not hearing from them as much. And, you kind of heard from the Michigan coaches side of things that we're just kind of pumping the brakes a little bit till everything gets figured out. It finally has. We can talk about the defensive coordinator. It looks like they're going to hire as well going forward. And it's going to be a different staff than this past year. And I think Jim Harbaugh acknowledged, and he said it in his statement when he signed his contract, that there are challenges ahead. This is kind of this is Jim Harbaugh 2.0 at Michigan almost. It kind of feels like a new era coming in. Can he reinvent himself? Can he, switch some of the things around that went awry this past year?
So the most important aspect of this seems to be exactly what you're talking about in regards to retaining the talent that was first recruited and committed to the team and then signed on National Signing Day, which by all accounts, based on exactly what you said, they didn't see too many flips. And they were able to retain one of the top 10 to 15 classes in the nation. So that was good. The one thing that came to mind for me when we talked about a number of times there being a contract extension out there, at some point in the season, the administration made that decision. Jim Harbaugh was obviously weighing his NFL options and seeing how that would possibly play out versus accepting this contract extension. I can't think that he had to mull over the contract extension for that long if he knew it was either going to be Michigan or bust. He was certainly waiting for the NFL season to see what was possibly out there for him.
I'll say this on that, not to interrupt you, Mark, but there were so many conflicting reports, and to be completely honest, we've talked about this before, how Jim Harbaugh, he doesn't really let anything leak from his camp. The Michigan Athletic Department and Ward Manuel is very tight-lipped as well. So it was very hard to, figure out, I guess, which sources are reliable, where they're getting their information. And I will say this, that the timeline looked like he was weighing more NFL options, and he very well might have been, especially internally or with his family, or, what do we want to do? It was at a crossroads, basically. Do I want to continue at Michigan long-term, or, do I want to seek NFL options? But there was really no indication, to be completely honest, that he was actually reaching out to teams, or, he doesn't have an agent, or, and I think that would have been the Ian Rappaports and the Adam Schefters of the world would have been, reporting on that. And that, seems to be in line. The fact that they didn't report on that seems to be in line with what we had heard, that he was, working on hiring a new defensive coordinator. He was recruiting over the holidays. So all indications point to that, he was still planning on being the coach in choosing Michigan. And then he ended up doing that. The timeline was weird. And do we have all the details on why it played out that way? No. But, there's certainly a chance that he was weighing the NFL options too.
Yeah, the timeline just added up to me as being able to weigh the options from the recruiting standpoint. That why wouldn't you sign and give that assurance to the guys that you're chasing? Plus, from the timeline of trying to assemble a staff and trying to fill some of the gaps, and especially at the defensive coordinator position. But then again, maybe not. Maybe it just took him that long to nail down that contract extension and get to a place where he felt good about it, and he and his family as well. Got Clayton Safety on the line from the Wolverine Mag on Rivals here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Hit that bell for the notifications once you have subscribed. That way you know when we're going live, which is each and every day, sometimes multiple times per day. So before we move on to the addition to the staff there, Clayton, you wonder what the standard's going to be in regards to, even though the contract extension goes all the way out to 2025, that what the standard is for keeping him, because basically every coach is on a 1-year contract to a certain extent, and with all the incentivized elements of this, he's really on a 1-year contract. And when they would possibly say, hey, this is not good enough, and if he continues on the 9-3 path, whether that is going to be deemed good enough.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention the buyout, and that was an oversight by me. So they lowered the buyout significantly on his contract. I think before it was just, his contract, basically. Like, the buyout was the next year on the contract. So, if he was fired at the end of this season, it would have been the $8 million that he was owed for the next year. Now it's down to $4 million. This next year, it'll go down to 3, and then 2, and then 1, and then 0 after that. So it's not just you get $4 million, and if you don't meet the incentives, you just get your $4 million. It's if you don't meet those incentives, basically, like, they're planning on him hitting some incentives. Otherwise, he's going to be shown the door. And that's kind of the standard, I think. When you see that with the fact that there were a lot of people in an uproar, a little bit about what's happened the last couple of years, especially this past year with the 2-4 season with the shortened year. So yeah, the buyout is a huge aspect of this. They lowered it, so there's more flexibility for both sides. And they lowered his buyout as well, where if he wanted to leave at any point, then he wouldn't have to pay as much. And I'll say this too: I think they're kind of planning on, this kind of a wait and see thing. If he, let's say next year, for a hypothetical, this probably won't happen, right? But let's say they win the national championship next year. They're going to restructure anyway. So this deal is kind of, here's what we have for the time being. Go out and hit your incentives, and we'll restructure, and we'll give you the biggest deal again of all time. So that's basically, the buyout thing is huge. This is not it's long-term on paper, but things need to be hit. Results need to be a lot higher than they were the past season if he wants to continue to be here.